Hello and welcome to After the Flag from Aragon. As you can see, we're here after the race down in pit lane where there's some frantic work going on. All the boxes are ready because, of course, we move from here in Europe to the overseas races and Thailand up next. We've just witnessed a brilliant race here in Aragon, a race where Marc Marquez must now surely be so close to victory in this 2018 World Championship. A win against Andrea Dovizioso and Andrea Iannone getting third place on the grid. I've got Matt Burt and Simon Crafar here with me to try and dissect what's just happened. I'm going to start off with Jorge Lorenzo because, of course, he started from pole position, Matt. A lot of people had him down as a race winner. We'll never know whether or not he had the pace to win the race because he only got as far as turn one.
Yeah, that's one of the saddest stories of today's action, wasn't it, Steve? Yeah, Jorge Lorenzo, that soft front tyre. We thought that was going to be his preferred choice. We thought that was going to be key to get him away with Marc Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso, but it was all over, barely 100 metres into the race. He just ran a little bit wide. Marc Marquez, I think, locked the front going into that first corner. Lorenzo, I think, might have just seen him, got pushed out a little bit wide, offline that dirty part of the track. We saw that big black line, big high side for Jorge Lorenzo. Thankfully, it looks like he's just got that dislocated toe in his right foot. Could have been a lot worse, but what a disastrous start to the day for Ducati.
Yeah, it was an absolute nightmare for Jorge Lorenzo. Not so for Marc Marquez though, Simon. 72 points clear going into Thailand. He really wanted that victory here today, not just because it's in Spain, but because of the battle recently with Ducatis.
I have to admit, my money was on a Ducati winning because that every time down the back straight they're pulling like a 0.1.5 second to 0.2, and to cope with that and fight back, that means you have to be 0.3 a lap faster to pull away like he did. I thought it would be too hard to do, too much risk when he's trying to win a championship, like he says. But he proved us wrong. You called it. You put your money on. He put his money on Marc. I had it down for Lorenzo, and again, we'll never know. But even though I had my money on Lorenzo, I'll admit, after seeing how Marc rode, how much he wanted it, I don't think there was any stopping him today.
And he gambled on that soft tyre on the rear last minute.
And you talk about big gambles, Steve, that was a massive roll of the dice. He had not done one single lap all weekend here in Aragon in these baking hot conditions on that soft tyre. There was some pretty fraught meetings, I'd imagine, in HRC where Marc said, I think I can make that soft rear tyre work. He did it to such brilliant effect. He never let Dovizioso get away from him in his last two laps when Andrea Dovizioso still felt like he might have had something for Marc. When he got the hammer down, he was absolutely awesome. He's always backed himself in those situations, got the courage of his convictions to stick to that tyre choice. It was brave and bold in the extreme to race a tyre in these conditions that you've never even tried in the afternoon. That was a massive risk for a guy who's fighting for the World Championship. Again, I've got to doff my hat to the guy, brilliant.
In terms of who he was fighting, of course, it had to be Andrea Dovizioso, the race winner in Misano. He gave it a good go, didn't he, Dovi, today?
He really did, like a proper fight, wasn't it? Especially when he decided to go. It was Dovi that put the hammer down first, about 10 laps to go, and Marc did the same. He said, I've got to go and stay with him. And that next couple of laps, even Marc admitted, it was really hard to stay with Dovi. I thought this was when the Duke was going to prove, and Marc fought through that next couple of laps, got back on the back of him, and Dovi could never get rid of him again, But big hats off to Dovi. As he said, this is one of the bogey tracks for him and Ducati, and they've just proved that they've sorted all those problems.
Dovizioso looked quite dejected in the press room. I guess obviously finishing second and losing that encounter to Marc will hurt, but he's on the best ever run of podiums he's ever got. Do you think that this dejection has a lot more to do with what happened at the start of the season?
Yeah, possibly, Steve. I mean, I think there are so many positives actually for Andrea Dovizioso and Ducati to take away from this Grand Prix. Aragon traditionally has been a bogey track for them. They've not won here since Casey Stoner back in 2010. Andrea Dovizioso's got a pretty average record here as well. I think it's a real sign of the progress that the Ducati have made this year, that he was able to take the fight to Marc Marquez right down to the last lap. This was an acid test for Ducati to gauge their progress. They can see that they're in the hunt with Honda now pretty much every Grand Prix. There'll be another acid test coming up. We know that Phillip Island has traditionally been a dreadful venue for Ducati. That will be another test of how far they've come. But I think when Andrea Dovizioso goes to sleep tonight, he wakes up tomorrow morning, he will reflect on actually being a really positive weekend.
Elsewhere on circuit, sadly, Cal Crutchlow went down. So his really consistent run has gone. Yamaha's, we'll have to talk about them when we get to the next round. 8th place was the best they could do with Valentino Rossi, which from 17th on the grid wasn't so bad. But the surprise of the day has to be Suzuki's. Both Andrea Iannone and Alex Rins going really well, but we'll concentrate on Iannone, who for a moment I thought might really get his nose in that.
Well, Iannone, he was losing so much that initial acceleration on the straight. Can you imagine how well he had to ride to match the lap times the whole way? Yeah, he made a bit of ground because they were having such a big fight ahead of him. But when he got there, he could hang on to them. It was really impressive. But the thing to me was having both the Suzukis there prove that Suzuki are going forward, aren't they? You know, yes, they lack a little bit of acceleration, but they're obviously good bikes. The guys are riding them really well.
Yeah, they're not far away, are they, Matt? And they seem to have found something with this soft rear tyre as well.
Yeah, they've made it work, haven't they, over the last 2 races in really scorching hot conditions. Of course, the big news for them today, that podium means they've lost their concessions for next season. They won't mind that one bit. They'll be on the same level playing field as Ducati, Yamaha and Honda, but that's a gauge, a good barometer of their success this year. This track played to the Suzuki strength. Andrea Iannone talked about it after the race. Turns 2 and 3, turns 10 and 11, and then 16 and 17. Really long, fast sweeping corners. That's where that sweet handling GSX-RR chassis really comes into its own. It was a great race by Andrea, and at one stage I think he thought, I might have something here for Marc Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso today. That classic moment in the battle at turn 15 when the three of them were side by side. They've had some battle royales, that trio, haven't they, in the past. It wasn't quite to be today for Andrea Iannone, but yeah, Suzuki are slowly but surely coming back to the fore.
Well, thanks very much, guys, for your thoughts on this race here in Aragon. That's all we've got time for. We're going to have to go before we get run over because these guys are packing and we're going to have to start packing soon as well. Marc Marquez, 72-point lead in the World Championship. He could finish 5th in every race from here until the end and still be crowned champion. It looks like it's his. Thanks for joining us here in Aragon. And until next time, we'll see you overseas in Thailand.
Three abreast through turn number 15, side by side all three, but it's Dovizioso that leads to get us all out. Marc Marquez is attacking Dovizioso and he's made it through.
Marquez takes the hat-trick of victories in Aragon and he says, yes, this is my championship.